Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how to make the table in two different ways. I'm going to show you how to do an easy way and then a hard way. So I'm going to firstly create a cube, and this is going to be the simple table. Just scale it down so it looks vaguely table sized. That goes sideways so you can see what you're doing. It's a bit small, so kind of like that, and move it so it's at the bottom of the plate. I'm going to make this one a little bit thicker, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and apply a bevel, and then the bevel will do like a terrible job of it, and that's because the object needs to have all of its transformations applied, and then you can see that it will give a proper bevel. So I'm going to make the bevel a little bit smaller, so like 0.1, and then put some more segments, and then you can see that we've got something that looks kind of okay. And I'm going to create a new material for it, and then you can color it any color you like, and then make it, I suppose I want to make it like a diner kind of texture, and so it looks something like that. And if we render it, you can see that that looks okay. So like a kind of a diner kind of color, maybe sort of like wash it out a little bit. So that's sort of like a basic texture. You can obviously, you could take this and you can smooth it, and then you can add kind of like image textures to make it look like it's wooden. So that's easy enough. You just go here, image texture, open a texture, find one that you like. So I've got one here, and I'm just going to put like a wooden texture on it. Then you can end up with something like that. I mean, it doesn't look great because you've got to change the UV map. So let's bring our wooden texture in, because you can see that this is like this big, and the table top, if we just turn this button on here, we can see that the table top here is like this one here. And you can see that's a very small part of it. So select them all, scale it like really big. Press G to move it, S to scale, G to move it. Then when we go back, you can see that that will look a little bit better. And then when you render it, it should look reasonably okay. So that's one way of doing it. So kind of creating like a wooden tabletop. So that's great. And what I'm going to show you is how to do like one with a piece of fabric on it. So like a tablecloth. So this is quite an intensive kind of thing. So we're going to create a completely new scene, and then we're going to import the object after we've done the simulation, because it won't work in here otherwise because it's just too big. So I'm going to sort of scale this up like a tabletop, do something like that, and then I'm going to apply all transformations, because we'll have to do it later anyway. And then I'm going to add a plane, and this plane is going to be our fabric. So take this, press S to scale, make it kind of pretty big, rotate it around, and then in edit mode, right click and subdivide it like a bunch of times. So I'm going to do it like 60 times or something, and so it's going to turn it into like a really big kind of mesh with loads of divided up loads of times. And then I'm going to use proportional editing and just kind of turn this into a piece of fabric. So kind of make it's quite big, just kind of muck it up a bit so it looks like a sort of a tablecloth in kind of mid-air, if that sort of makes sense. And then move it around and bring it up, and that kind of looks okay. And then back in object mode, just kind of put it like that, because what it's going to do is it's going to drop straight down like that, and if it's flat on, it just won't make any creases or anything, and it'll be a bit boring. So we're going to do that, and now we're going to set up the physics. So with this one selected, go to the physics tab here, which is physics properties, and turn it into cloth. And then just go all the way down and just make sure that the collisions are self collisions, because then it won't crumple or kind of go in on itself or fold in on itself. And then this object down here, the tabletop, we're going to make that a collision object. Okay, so now we press play. It will do the simulation, and if you're happy with it, and I'm kind of happy with that, I'm just going to shade it smooth to see what it looks like. I'm going to give it another go. If you're not happy with it, you can change the kind of the way that the table is positioned or the cloth is positioned. So I'm going to change it to that, and I'm going to play again. And I'm going to change it again, and I'm going to go into here and just change some of these just to make it a little bit more exaggerated. And go back here, and we'll press play again. And I like that one. That one's good. So when you're happy and you like the final look to the sort of fabric, and you're happy with where it's ended up. So here I'm kind of good with this. Don't worry about these bits because we can always move those later. When you're happy, go to the spanner where it says the cloth and just apply it. And then go here and take this and apply that. So now everything's kind of locked into place and we don't have to worry about it. This looks a bit jaggy and a bit kind of rough, so we're just going to add a subdivision. And that will smooth it all out and turn it into like a nice fabric. Okay, that's good. It's poking through the table, but it doesn't really matter because we can just take this now and we can scale it. But you can see that the center point is up there, so we're going to change that. We're going to set the origin to geometry, and then we're also going to apply all transformations because we did a lot of moving of this, and that's going to make a difference later on. And I'm just going to scale it a bit so it fits on the table. There we go. Next thing is that it doesn't have any material. So the first one, I'm going to add a material to it. It's already got one, so I'm just going to put that wooden texture on. So image texture, open, find the last texture, and I'm just going to apply it like that. I'm not really going to do too much with it. I think it looks kind of okay as it is, but I'm also going to add the bevel to it. So I'm going to add a bevel and just make it nice and small. And that will do. Add some subdivisions, and then we get a nice edge to it, and it will just make it look a little bit better. Okay, that's good. And then this one I'm going to add a material to as well. So new, and then this we're just going to add a image texture. And I've got a fabric texture that I've used, which is this one. There's lots of them you can find all over the place. And you can see it looks a bit big, so it looks a bit sort of like a napkin. So I'm going to go to UV and select all, and you can see that it's too big, so I'm just going to scale it. And now when I go back to here and look at it, you can see that it looks a little bit more natural in terms of scale. Okay, so now I'm happy with that. I am going to save it. So go File, Save As, and I'm going to save it as table. I've already done one, so I'm going to save that over it. And now I'm going to open my donut 3 with the plate, and I'm going to add that object. So I go File and Append, and then I'm going to, at the moment, I'll show you how to do that. So what I would do is I would go to, I'd find the table, so I go table like this and go append. It asks you what bit you want to append, and I want to append a mesh. So double click on that, and then you can see the cube and the plane, and I'm going to append them. And there you go, it's brought them in, they're really big. So I can just scale them down to the side view and just make sure that they're kind of the right height. And that looks okay, and you can see that, you know, we need to position it so that the donut doesn't go through the fabric, and that looks good. Okay, so now we've kind of got that, and here we can see that we need to add the subdivision because it loses it in the transition, and there we go, that's good. If you're worried about these bits, then we can again turn on that and just sort of move these bits about and make sure that it's nice and big. And then you can sort of move this around. But we are not really going to see it because we're going to be, when we render it, we're going to be focused like this. So it should be okay. So that's how to do the table and the cloth. And when we render it, it should look pretty good. There we go. I mean, the cloth is a bit shiny, so you might need to change that because it makes it look a bit like velvet. So go into the materials and just sort of change the roughness and bring it up a little bit. And that's it. And next I'll show you how to do the the cup and the saucer.